Hello everyone and welcome. Yes, my name is Arafire and welcome back to another episode of Look Out and Shout. It's been a while since we've done one of these now, hasn't it? And today, bit long awaited, we are reviewing one of my pickups from TF Nation. It's TransArt's BWM, not BMW, 09 Blade Leopard, or Blade Leopard Shadow it says, which I would have thought would have been their repaint, but nevertheless that's what it says on the box. This is their version of a TransMetal2 Cheetor. Now, as you know, I'm quite fond of Beast Wars and TransArt and the work they're doing. So, that being said, I was never a fan of this design of Cheetor. Not hugely. I didn't mind it, but I didn't love it. And that's probably one reason why I didn't pick this one up sooner. But I saw it at TF Nation. This was sold to me by the wonderful Primetime Toys. And of course with Primetime Toys, you too can pick up this and many other Transformer toys on their website if you just head to primetimetoys.co.uk, and when you get to your checkout you can enter one of two codes. You can enter an older code of Welcome 10, but you can also enter a much newer code on your purchase of Power Up 10. And that is going to give you 10% discount on your shopping orders. Do recommend that you use Primetime Toys. They've been very good to me, very helpful, very good friends of the channel. Do thank you very much for sending me this figure. And yeah, I picked this up at TF Nation mostly because I couldn't really say no. I love the box. I do love the styling that they do with this. And when I got it in hand, I was quite impressed. We'll go into more with the detail of the figure itself. But TransArt, again, for me, have reached that kind of echelon of just doing so little wrong. They've gone into that category along with MMC of just doing so many more hits than misses. So I kind of got this based on their reputation. Now, I have always said, do not kind of go in blindly with it. You're only as good as your last figure. This is a slightly older figure, I will say that much. But I kind of felt, well, I've had a good run of experience with the figure. Even though this isn't my favourite design of Cheetor, I prefer the Season 1 design. I even prefer the first Transmetal version. Do I really need this one? Well, let's have a look at it and find out if I like it. And inside the box you get his little light up stickers for eyes that you can put on, and I am again not necessarily inclined to do them. I had that with Megatron. The fact that the light up features were gone, I did stick them on there, but it didn't seem to make a whole lot of difference. So I don't feel massively inclined to do that to him. I like the eyes that are on both modes, so I might just leave them as it is. Also, you have a slight instruction of what to do in the head and the jaw, as well as some QR codes to scan to take you to the transformation, because TransArt do not give you actual instructions, you get links to instructions. You also have his collector's card with stats on the back. But no gloves this time, no Mickey Mouse gloves. So, okay, there's not huge amounts of chrome on this figure. Maybe that's not such a problem, and I've got two pairs already. But yes, most disappointed. And here he is in his robot mode, and he stands tall. He stands very tall. A lot of characteristics to this figure. He's got a real slenderness to him, and this is an earlier TransArts figure where I don't feel the diecast is entirely there. I do feel there are some places where it would serve better use. But I like how it looks. He certainly stands taller than I thought. And of course, this version of Cheetor was a much more upgraded version of Cheetor. Not my most favourite design when it was first introduced. But nevertheless, the figure stands proud. The figure stands tall. There's some interesting things that I have noticed, though, with this figure. I don't think you'll see it on the way around. Part of his head around the back here is the skin colour, the leopard skin colour. The other side is silver. I can't really recall as to why it's kind of his organic side coming through, or rather his beast side, or rather his mechanical side coming through, but it was an interesting thing that I just noticed when you look at the back of his head. The ankles for me are a little bit not loose, but certainly don't have the stability I would like. He more or less bears his weight on the arches rather than on the heel, rather than on the toes, and as a matter of fact the toes are barely touching the ground. So I would have liked a bit more, maybe die cast down there to give some real rigidness to the figure for standing in poses. Not that he's going to fall over on you, but that slenderness, the fact that there is no real die cast heavy weight to it, does make him a little bit liable to falling over. That said, he's not a loose figure. I do like how he looks. Again, he is a very tall figure. If you've got any previous versions of Cheetor, he will dwarf them, but we'll see that more in comparisons. Let's get in for a closer look. Now, you won't be able to tell, but as I've taken him off the turntable, I've had to lean him a bit more forward, because if I put him back a bit to get him a bit more upright, he does have a tendency to go, and luckily balances on his tail. So yeah, I would have liked the ankles to be a little bit more, but it is a very nice figure. It's very light. The expression on the face, the orange eyes, that's lovely use of paint, even with a tiny, tiny goatee as well. And if he opens up his mouth, you get a much more of a feral facial expression. That's very, very cool. I do like that. Head rotation is like such. Bit limited, can look up, can look down quite a way, and for that height you would hope so as well. Ab crunch and rotation. Good rotation out of the shoulders. Elbow, I would like a double elbow if I'm honest. It's fine for the rotation, but it doesn't go any more than that. Hands give you lots of rotation and movement. You get individual knuckles at the front to give like a holding claw, giving a Wolverine-esque kind of vibe. The tail in and of itself is an interesting one, so naturally it comes packaged loose. So if I take it off, it just literally plugs in to his rear end and is kind of like cable wire. It bends out almost like rubber. The only thing I'd say here is there is a tiny bit of QC issues on the paint. You can get some smearing where you can see where my thumb is. There's been a bit of misadaptation of the paint, and you can see it a bit there where the silver's gone over to where the leopard print should be. And that's just a bit of a shame because it's quite a dirty colour of a leopard print. It's not like a vibrant yellow, so when you see some smearing on it, it is a bit ruining of the image. And what you see at this point is his gun, which actually fits nicely onto his back, which if I then remove and get the figure in hand, you'll see then that it actually fans out a bit like teeth, but more like spikes, back spikes. And of course, being a gun with a missile loaded, you can actually fire the missile, which is a nice feature, back to the old toy. Which he can hold. Now, I will say, whilst he holds it and there's no drooping, it actually holds quite well in that regard, it looks a bit unsightly because on the palm of his hand, it's best if I show you on this hand, it's a peg. It's a, I don't know, 3mm peg. It's very, very small. And to get that in, you just have to plug it in, but you have to do some jiggery pokery with the thumb. And it's more or less his thumb comes over his first finger to grip it in. And when you see the hand formation holding the holster of the gun, the grip of the gun, it just looks a little bit unsightly. It looks a bit of a mess, which I would have liked the traditional either slide in or pegs and then the thumb tucks down the side, but there isn't enough motion in the thumb to get the thumb out of the way. It more or less becomes an extra finger than a thumb, and it makes holding the gun a bit awkward. So he can do it, it will work, it just looks a little bit untidy. I wish that was done a little better, unless of course I'm doing something wrong. But that's how he holds his weapon. Okay, now on to some comparisons. Here he is alongside Takara Masterpiece Cheetor from Season 1 of Beast Wars. We can see the evolution of Cheetor very clearly here. Takara Masterpiece Optimus Primal from Season 1 of Beast Wars. Primal was never the biggest in the first season, so again we're seeing an upgrade. This is a nice comparison alongside the Season 1 Beast Wars of Tigatron from Takara. Again, that's probably a good size. Cheetor does get much bigger later on, and Tigatron was always the bigger of the two. Getting into the big boy stuff, here he is alongside Takara Masterpiece Beast Wars Dinobot. And again, probably the right size. That is very much on a larger bot scale. And just to give you an idea of representation, here he is alongside one of my latest reviews, which was Fans Toys' version of Weird Wolf, their Lupus. That's true masterpiece scale, but you can see Cheetor's not too far off. I'll just quickly take a look at some of the detailing on the chest before we transform it. And if you can see, there's some really nice, almost tribal-like deco going on. I like the fact that this stage it was really organic fused with metallic at this point. The chrome is shining through nicely. I will say, yeah, that tail, whilst it's on a fairly deep rubber peg, with the weight of it, does have a tendency to fall out. Yeah, it's really hard to push in. It will stay in, but probably the tail is the one thing I have a criticism of with this figure. I didn't know if you could take it off, put it in his hand as a weapon, like a lance. I can't recall him doing that in the show, but I wondered if that was going to be a feature, but I haven't seen anywhere on the hands where you could plug it in or even grip it successfully, if that is the case. Would have been a cool feature, very much like his earlier design for the first TransMetal run. But overall, it's got lovely paintwork to it. That's what TransArt are really doing well. The presentation of these figures is second to none. I mean, I just love the eye paint. Even though it's a solid colour and no light piping, it's got expression for days. Okay, let's get him transformed up, shall we? And here he is in his beast mode, and he's pretty easy to transform. As you can imagine, he more or less goes on all fours, and that's what you get. It's never been my most favourite mode. It definitely has a Prowler-esque to it. But there's a couple of things like his front claws, which are his hands in robot mode, that don't exactly tidy up very well for me. Now again, these don't come with instructions. There is a QR code that you can scan to a video transformation. Really, you can figure this one out for yourself. It's quite straightforward. But the claw, or the thumb, sits underneath the front of the paw, and it more or less acts as a stand, as a stilt under the front three claws. And again, just like holding the gun in bot mode, it's a little bit unsightly. I would have rather there was a way to make it crumple up or become a rear talon or claw of some kind. But nevertheless, it is a very good prancing down Cheetor. Now I will stretch him out a bit more when I get him off the turntable. But yeah, he looks pretty good. There's some nice detailing on the face. You'll see that more in a closer look. But he does have that rocket cheetah vibe, which really this mode he would kind of use in the TV show. He would be transformed in this mode and then jet along at super rocket speeds. That really comes across in this image, in this form. Let's get him for a closer look. So I would say for getting him into this mode, to get the best results, you want to get him kind of hunched. You want to stand him quite tall on his legs. Then when you get him up here, you can see what I mean. Now, it's a little bit loose for me round the waist. It's that hip, or rather it's that ab crunch, and it's a little bit, it's not as secure as I would like it to be. Unless I'm missing something, I can't see where it would tab in. I would have just liked that a little more if that would have tabbed in itself. Again, that looseness of the tail, it bends up, and I prefer it in that more upward and claws, almost scorpion-like position. But yeah, it's pretty good. He has a movable jaw. Maybe the face isn't as expression or full as expression as a robot mode, but he has fairly good rotation, more up and down than side to side, but he can give a little confused dog look. But you do find this with some beasts or anything turning into an animal, the posability can be a bit limited. You can get him maybe in a prowling pose or a running pose, but beyond that, what much more can you do? You can see what I mean about the claws. It more or less just tucks under in every picture that I've seen. Otherwise it would be out to the side for bot mode, which, okay, that wouldn't look very good just hanging out on the side in beast mode, but it more or less just crumples under and it just looks a little untidy for me. But the transformation's very easy, very straightforward. Again, that chrome and metallic form coming through in the beast, like particularly on the face, but other parts of the body as well. Presentation for TransArt's very, very nice, even if I have got a couple of QC issues with the tail. Okay, on to some beast comparisons. This is one I really like, alongside TransMetal Rat Trap, who I keep in rat form, and yeah, it really makes you appreciate how big this rat actually is. When you get these two side by side, that's pretty cool. Getting the two, well, not frenemies, but the two comrades that we often see on TV together side by side in their lovely TransMetal colours. And again, keeping with TransArt, this is him alongside Metal T-Rex, their version of a TransMetal Megatron. I love that Megatron figure, but again, it shows you the size we're dealing with. He's still quite large, the tail coming up to Megatron's back. But yeah, TransArt really nailing the Beast Wars aesthetic. Keeping with a TransMetal2 theme, here he is alongside the legacy version of Megatron from Beast Wars, so different scale range, but both the second adaptation of the TransMetals. Again, do like how these are coming across. For something a little different, here he is alongside Planet X version of Grimlock, their Vulcan, full of Cybertron style. Again, no relation between the characters, but you see an idea of size. And a typical Masterpiece Carbot in the scale of Sunstreaker. So what are my final views on Speedy McSpeedface? Well, it didn't blow me away as much as I would have wanted it to. It maybe suffers from being one of the earlier designs. I do think the lack of die cast is a bit of an issue. Not that it's bad, not that it has posing problems or anything like that. It's very light, very simple transformation, but it could do with that heft to it in places. And again, I don't know if I've done the waist right here. I don't know if something's supposed to tab in. It feels like it wants to compress that bit more. So I'll probably look back on the edit and realise, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. The QC on the tail, it's a bit of a shame. That's my first experience of QC issues with this figure, or with TransArt in general. And it's just a bit of a letdown. It's a bit easy to say they only do nice on the chrome bits, but I will say that rippled effect just doesn't wow me like some of the others do. It doesn't have that absolutely captivating presence to it, even though I do like the metallic edging, particularly around the face. Its bot mode is its selling point. That's probably how I'll store it. I don't mind this. It's a very good size. It is just basically the robot mode lying down. I like the gun. The hands are a little bit of a shame. The fact it just looks a little bit ungainly, how it holds the gun, and again how it tucks away with its thumb more or less tucked underneath. When you get it side by side with the other figures, you see what TransArt are doing. You see what they're doing and how they're doing it, and the fact they're doing it well. I do appreciate the fact that the missile fires off, nice little gimmick that we had from toys back in the day. I am also mindful that this was never my favourite design of Cheetor, full stop. So I'm not going to completely blame TransArt for this because they're just following an original design. Maybe I don't love it so much because I never quite did. Posability is good enough. I would have liked slightly stronger ankles, and I would have liked better posability with the guns and the weapons, but the expression on the head in bot mode is brilliant. Shoulder movement, waist, ab crunch, it's all there. And TransArt don't do expensive figures. This is again why I hold them in that same category for quality, like up there with MMC. The fact that you're not paying half the world for a masterpiece figure, if this is what you're after, if you're going down the Beast Wars route. And I think when we're all done with it, the fact that we got Tarantulas coming very soon, and then Silverbolt, Quick Strike, there's Black Arachnia, TransMetal2 out there as well. Gotta be Rampage and Depth Charge. When you get them all side by side, it's gonna look spectacular. It's gonna look something special. We're still waiting on their Dinobot 2. That's been a while in development, so I wonder what's going on there. I do like it. I do wonder maybe could there have been updates and improvements, but again, it's one of their older figures. I think this came out before their Megatron re-release, which they did re-release and made some changes, and I think this came out before Rat Trap as well, which I've had no problems with, and I really am quite a fan of. So I've got him. I'm glad I've got him. Thank you again to Primetime Toys for sending him to me. I would have liked it if they could have maybe used his tail like as a staff or something. And if there is a way to do it, I haven't worked out how to do it. It is a shame that TransArt don't do their instructions. The fact that you're sent to video link and okay, maybe saving on a bit of paper and whatever. No gloves this time. Very disappointed. One thing I didn't show you, and I don't know if it's a feature per se, but you can kind of get a bit of halfway house. The fact that he can be an upright Cheetor, upright beast mode, so he can have his beast head and walk as a biped. So this is one reason why the transformation is so straightforward. He more or less just stands up. I haven't flipped the arms around the right way and rotated the shoulders to get the hands the right way, so you have to use your imagination for that. You can knock down a bit of his chin, and then it makes a bit more of an upright pose. So I think maybe he did this in one episode, be kind of halfway house, and they were going down this route, the fact that they didn't need to fully transform, they could partially transform, which I was never a fan of. But it's something I think you can do, and I have seen a product shot of this. I'm not so sure why you would. Much like the show, it sort of takes away the need of the transformation. To have a mythical element, like going Minotaur kind of route, he's not a bull, I know, but halfway creature to half human, half Cheetor. What would you say that is? But it's a feature nevertheless, I think. But that all being said, I do like it. It is going nicely in the collection, but I give this 3.5 Rodimus Star Badges. It's just for one or two things, and my first experience of QC, maybe, it's very slight, but I've got to dock it something. But I'm glad I've got it, and if you are inclined to be beast-minded, and if you're going for a beast collection, or if you just want to try out a different company and what they can offer, I can't recommend TransArt enough. And there we go, that is my review of TransArt's BWM-09 Blade Leopard, their version of a TransMetal2 Cheetor. Thank you very much to the guys at Primetime Toys for sending me this figure. I do recommend you go and check them out, and I'll put a link in the description of the video below to their website. But thanks for watching, and as always, I will see you on the next one.